So the past few years, the Indigenous Language Institute has been coming to the Pueblo Pojoaque, more specifically to Buffalo Thunder. And so I truly wanted to, number one, express my appreciation to the board, as well as Miss Inez Slaughter. She has worked tirelessly here in New Mexico and elsewhere to try and keep the Indigenous Language Initiative moving forward. I also want to thank my tribal members here. I'm glad to see you all here. To give you all a little bit of background on our tribe, can I have the tribal members who are here stand up? Don't be shy, Ko'o. Sangitamo. So a little story about the Pueblo Pojoaque. There's three of us here today, but we are the descendants of 12 people who reestablished the Pueblo back in 1912. Between 1912 and 1924, ultimately reestablishing the Pueblo to its fullest by 1936 and being recognized. We are the survivors. We are the ones that made it. And so I'm extremely proud of my tribe and where we've come from. And we just heard Mr. Hill talk about, VAWA and protecting our children and making sure that our future generations are looked after and that they're nurtured as we move into the future. And I was given the opportunity at a young age. As a young child, I was readopted back into the Pueblo. My mother grew up poor and without any sustenance, very little. And so she left the Pueblo and moved to Illinois, or Chicago, I should say. And ultimately, given the trauma and the issues that she had faced as a young woman and the tough upbringing that she faced, she struggled to help take care of myself and my brothers and sisters. Ultimately, I was adopted back into the Pueblo at 4 years old and given a great opportunity by my parents, Joe and Thelma Talachy, where I received my initiation in Okeawinge, my wopo in Okeawinge, where my father grew up, and participated in Kapoawinge on the summer side, where my mom grew up. But I also always participated here in the Pueblo Pojoaque. I was fortunate enough to have an upbringing where I was surrounded by our language. Unfortunately, as we say, it didn't grab onto me at the time, and so it's taken many years for me to come back to that full circle and grab hold of the language or allow it to grab onto me. And so 4 years ago, I couldn't stand up here and say a prayer. And even now I use technology to help me fill in the blanks where I may not get or I may have forgotten, and that's okay. And I think that that's the key to bringing back the language, is that, preserving the language, is not being afraid to use today's technology, not being afraid to get up in front of people and speak your language. It can be uncomfortable, it can be a little nerve-wracking, but at the same time, if we don't do it, who will? Our children are watching us every day. Our children are emulating our behavior, emulating what we do, emulating the way we speak. If we don't do something about it, who will? I also see Miss Jagels out there, who is our Miss Jagels. Can you please stand? And Sam Katnack out in the back. Can you please stand? So Miss Jagels and Miss Jagels has been with the Pueblo for many years now. She's part of the Tewa classes, or leads the Tewa classes in many of our schools. I don't know how she does it. She must have wings. But she goes from school to school to school teaching the Tewa language, a language that we have been slowly losing. And so she's one of the individuals that is bringing it right back. And Sam Katnack, who is now our Tewa language program director. This is the first year that the Pueblo Pojoaque has developed an entire Pueblo language department with its own budget, with its own employees, with its own operating expenses, and everything else. And so our thought process behind that is that if we don't put the resources time, and energy into each and every one of our departments and each and every one of our programs and each and every age group, we aren't going to be able to get this language to continue on. It starts with the young ones, and it moves up to the preteens, and it moves up to high school, and it moves up to college, and it moves up to the adults, and then it moves up to our elders. The interaction between those generations is critical to continue this language, to continue our culture. When you think about culture, we think about land, we think about language, we think about customs, we think about the way we worship the earth, the way we do our way of life. And so language has got to be number one. We've got land. And even though that's constantly under attack, and even though we are constantly protecting it, we still got our land. Language, however, has been much more challenging. Language is easy to forget, and that it doesn't fall just on outside challenges. It falls on us. So when we talk about language, let's talk about teaching our children. Let's talk about talking with our elders who speak the language. Let's talk about getting out of our comfort zone and speaking and talking and engaging with each other with our language. We may be wrong, we may be right, we may be corrected, we may be right, and we may correct others, but we learn. And so, given the progress that has happened in the tribe over the past, 10 years, I can tell you that there is an opportunity for us to bring our languages back, for us to preserve what we've got already, and to expand what we've got as well. I've been working very hard for the past 2 years trying to get my language back, to be able to come up here and stand in front of a crowd of people and to say a prayer and mean it with every bit of my heart, and to speak it clearly and to be comfortable doing it. Our tribal council hadn't had a tribal leader say a full Tewa language prayer in probably 80 to 100 years. We were able to bring that back in the last year and a half, 2 years. It was very uncomfortable at first, but now it is a routine, and now it's become ingrained in us. And so I ask you all to, when we move forward, that we move forward with one heart and one-hearted thought, moving forward so that we can teach our children our language, so that we can preserve our language, and so that we can become stronger as a people. So with that, again, I appreciate you all being here. Welcome to the Buffalo Thunder Resort and Casino. Welcome, but more importantly, welcome to the Pueblo Pojoaque. Okay? If you get a chance, please drive up to the Pueblo and see where we live, where we are at. Our Kiva is just about 2 miles from here, right up the road. So if you all get a chance, please feel free to drop by. We welcome you. And again, may the Great Spirit guide all of your paths, and may you all be blessed.